Check one, two, three. Hey everybody, it's Michael Helms, also known as Michael the Sound Guy, and this is the Location Sound Podcast. You know, each episode we talk with location sound mixers, boom ops, and other industry pros about the various aspects of recording sound on location, whether it's for feature and independent films, TV commercials, interviews, any time where dialogue from actors is recorded. I started my career in the recording studios in New York City with some of the big artists back in the day, and later on projects for networks like HBO, Sci-Fi Channel, and the Cartoon Network. As time went by, I got out of the studio and began working in production sound. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, thanks for joining us. My guest today has worked in film and television for over 20 years. He's a location sound mixer, recordist for features, TV series, docs, and commercials, and he's based out of Calgary and Alberta, Canada. Please welcome Justan Ross.
Hello.
Welcome, Justan.
Thank you.
Now, we always like to start off the show by asking, what's in your audio kit? I know you have a feature film and a commercial kit and a documentary kit. So let's start with the feature film kit.
Yeah, so I have a cart that's built with SKB cases and Film Tools vertical cart. And then I have Sound Devices 664 on there. You know, I got a Venue. I got an old school Sonosax S8 analog mixer. And Comteks. I've got Zaxcom IFB as well in there. That is for, usually I use that for my boom op, and then Comteks for everybody else. Yeah, Meon Life for battery power, the kind of usual.
And what kind of boom mics do you like to use?
So yes, I have a CMIT 5U, which is what I use for mainly exteriors. And then also I have MKH50, Sennheiser MKH50, which I use for interiors. And then I also have a couple 416s in my kit, mainly because I have run into times where my CMIT didn't like the environment, too much moisture. So I have the 416s because they're pretty rock solid.
And how about timecode?
Timecode, yeah, Denicky Slate. And then for sync boxes I just got those Ambient NanoLockits.
All right. You like those a lot?
I do. I really like them a lot. Actually, another guy came and rented one today, so I was showing him it. Hopefully in the future I want to get the slates as well, so I can just wirelessly sync everything.
That's good. Now tell us a little bit about your documentary kit.
Yeah, then I run the 633 in Orca bag, and then I've got Lectrosonics 411As all in there. Use the same shotgun mics and same interior mic and all that kind of stuff. I have Audio Root as my powering system in it. I also have it so that I have a bag for my 664 too as well, just in case if I have to do reality TV stuff or something where I need more than 6 wireless, which I usually try to avoid in the bag, but sometimes it comes along.
Okay. I was going to ask you a question. One of our listeners actually wrote in a question, and he was saying that he was working on a documentary or maybe it was a reality TV show, and his name's Jack Bradley, and he asked the question, they've had multiple cameras and everybody's synced, but there were multiple cameras, but they're all filming something different and not even related to each other. Have you ever had that situation where you're recording a bunch of ISOs, and so what do you do with your mix track?
Well, usually at that point, I don't know, that's tricky. I've been in that situation a few times, and I hate it, but you do have to just rely a lot on the ISOs. If the cameras are close, if there's 2 cameras, maybe have camera A on the left and camera B on the right for the mix track. I don't know, and try to mix that way. Okay.
And are you sending them a wireless mix usually?
Usually. So when I'm in more of my doc mode or reality mode, I also have a Zaxcom IFB in my bag. So typically I use the ERXs for guide track and time code when I'm in more of that sort of mode. The NanoLockits I usually use when I'm in cart mode for like Alexas or Reds.
That's interesting. Yeah, he sent me this question. And I was like, yeah, we should explore that. And some people you ask are like, no, I never heard of that. But I guess you've experienced it.
Oh, I definitely have. I haven't in a while, and it's not very frequent, but it does happen.
Now, what are some of the main audio projects that you do, the style and the types?
Because of where I'm located, we just have, it's pretty small for Canada, for film and TV industry, like compared to Toronto and Vancouver. If Toronto or Vancouver are getting, they're doing 50 things, 50 TV shows, projects or more, they're kind of busy. Whereas if we get 4 here, that's busy for us, to kind of give you an idea. So there isn't really one main thing I do, because I jump around. I do union stuff, narrative stuff, and then commercials. I do a lot of commercials, everything, docs. There's not really one thing that is my main focus.
We had talked originally, you just finished working on a TV series called Heartland. Can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Yeah, so Heartland is a pretty well-known Canadian show, although it does have a lot of fans from around the world. We get a lot of people visiting set from the States and all sorts of countries. But on that, I'm just working as a sound utility. I did do some mixing on it. What kind of happened there was about halfway through season 10, I replaced a guy. And then I just enjoyed being on the show and working with the cast and crew that I stayed another 2 more seasons. There was a story point where one of the characters had to go to Mongolia. So there's an area out here called Drumheller that has Hoodoo Mountains. So it kind of looks like Mongolia. So anyways, for that stuff, I got to mix that.
Okay. Now, what would be like a typical day on that show? Starting off, are you all over Canada? Or you kind of stay in one area?
No, that show is pretty close. So I live in South Calgary, so it's all within southern Calgary. So there's a place called Millerville, which is a really small sort of town, and it's mainly around that area that we shoot. There's an exterior Heartland Ranch is out there, and then there's rodeo grounds out there that we use a lot, and also another city, shouldn't say city, a small town called High River, and that's where we have a set called Maggie's Diner, and that town is known as Hudson on the show, but High River is what it is. And then interior sets are all within Calgary.
So like a typical day, what would that be like?
Well, usually we do on average, I'd say between 6 and 8 pages a day of shooting. There's about 8 to 10 main cast on that. The big days are when we have these dinner scenes. So in those scenes, there's like 8 cast, usually, anywhere from 6 to 8. So, we got 8 wires, and then my second boom, and then the boom op, so 2 booms as well.
And you pretty much go wireless boom now, right?
Yes, I've only done, wireless for years.
All right. I was looking at I was digging through some stuff there, and at the Bachelor Canada, you were a sound mixer for that. What was that experience like?
Well, that was, the Bachelor Canada one was only a few days. So it was like Bachelor Canada was shot in Vancouver. They came down to Alberta because some of the girls on the show were from here. So we had to just go see where they worked, follow them around, do interviews with them here, that kind of stuff. So I didn't really work the main part of the show, but I heard the house where it all happens, they would run up to 25 wireless or something like that, and it sounded pretty crazy. From the sound guys that were on the show, they were telling me all that.
I saw that you won the Alberta Film and Television Award for The Smalls, Forever is a Long Time.
Yeah, that's correct. That's Smalls are a older Canadian band from the 90s that were very popular here locally. And what happened is, they stopped touring or broke up, in the early 2000s. And then, God, when did I do that? 2015? I think so, 2015. The band got back together and decided to do another tour. So I had worked with the director and producer on many other projects, and so they brought me in to do that. So we traveled across Canada.
like a little mini tour?
Yeah, exactly. We just followed a mini tour, and it was tough. It was interesting because it was, I'd never done anything like that. So travel with a band. So when you're traveling with a band, it's like, you get to location or, early. They set up, we're filming them get set up. They, do sound checks. They get ready. That takes up a good part of the day. And then you come back for the concert at night, and we'd shoot the whole concert, the behind the scenes, grab interviews with fans. And then you're in bed and on the road. So then you're on the road traveling to the next city. We're shooting with them as they travel between cities. So then you get to see, and then you do it all over again. So it was quite long days, right? Just never seemed to stop shooting when they were on tour.
Interesting. Yeah, so you're just rolling all the time, capturing every conversation, every people looking out the window as they're riding, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, whatever. Because at that point, Trevor, the director at the time, had an idea of the direction he wanted to take it. But, the doc world, it's, you start with a plan, but it usually changes pretty quickly on where you're taking your characters and where you're taking your story. So, we had film on pretty much everything. And then I would take a stereo feed from Jason, who was their mixer on tour with them. He mixed all their shows. So I'd just take a stereo feed from him. I think at the time I didn't have sound devices. I had a Zaxcom Max at the time. So I would take a feed from him, and then for the shows, and then just a boom in the room to get crowd. Now that was kind of it. And then everything else on that one I didn't run a lot of wires. I didn't actually wire the band up too much. I chased them around a lot with the boom. Yeah, the wires just wouldn't work with the shooting style we had going on at that time. And then any of the interior car stuff, I would kind of boom it, or I'd put, because it was a van and they had rows of seats, I would just put mics behind each seat or wherever the band members were sitting, right, in the car. And then if they talked to each other, I grab as much off of the mic plants that I could and boom whatever else I could. So, yeah, other than, we had sit-down interviews. Obviously, I ran boom and wire for those, but yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Does it make you want to go on tour again?
I don't know. I guess it would depend on the band and the offer and the project. But yeah, I would definitely try it again. I think I would do it a lot differently. I think I would like they didn't have Zoom. It would have been nice to have like a Zoom F8, something that I could jam with time code and then take more than just 2 tracks out of the mix from the live board, if that was possible.
That's interesting, though. That's cool. I also saw that you were part of the sound team for Fargo season 3, and you guys got a nomination for an Emmy in 2017.
Yeah. So I was a second unit sound mixer on that, and Mike Playfair is the main unit sound mixer on that. He's done all 3 seasons of that show, and he's who I trained under. So when I started as a sound trainee and then worked into sound utility or sound third, he was the guy that taught me everything. So yeah, exactly. I did that. So yeah, got an Emmy nomination. It was a good show to work on. It was again a tough show, just because of Dana, one of the DOPs, who was really great to work with. Pretty intense guy, but intense in a good way, in that he would, come up with these really interesting camera shots. But then it would be a challenge for me to kind of like, okay, how am I going to make the audio work for this? Yeah, I just wanted to do better. So whatever he kind of came up with, it sort of pushed me to try to be like, okay, well, sometimes I gotta think outside the box here to try to make some of these shots work.
Okay. Yeah, now, out of all the projects I guess you've worked on over the years, is there one that stands out as being your favorite?
Well, I think Fargo season 3 has definitely been my favorite. yeah, basically because of, like I said, sort of the challenges of the show and just some of the scenes I got to do, like with Ewan McGregor and all of the cast on that. It's always nice to, I actually haven't seen season 3 because it hasn't played up here yet. The scenes I did see that they posted that I did, it's exciting when you get to see that, when you get to see that your audio, that's your audio. You're like, oh, that turned out pretty good. Even though on the day you're freaking out because you got to work with, pretty well-known, people, right? Intimidating, when you meet some of those cast at time because you don't know what they're going to be like. But everybody was great on that show for sure.
All right. Now, for people getting started, some of our listeners, they're always asking, do you recommend renting gear or buying gear?
I think that kind of depends where you're at in your career. I come from the idea of you start at the bottom and you work your way up to the top. So learning from other professionals. So starting out as a trainee or starting out as an assistant, for learning under pros, so that you know what you're doing and to have it done correctly, right, on the day. So if you're because there a lot lately, there are a lot of guys that just come out and buy gear because gear is pretty cheap. I mean, you can get like you said, you've got this Mix Pre 10. Well, you can get that pretty cheap for $2,000, and you can put a pretty decent kit together. And then, call yourself a sound mixer, I guess. But my belief is, you like I said, you got to start with the pros and learn, so that you don't go onto the set and make like really bad mistakes that could, tarnish your name or make you look bad. But the other side of that is, there's nothing really wrong with it. I mean, right? I don't think so. Like, if you want to take that risk, I guess go for it. I worked as an assistant for 7 or 8 years, and then I bought gear and started to sort of put myself out there as a mixer. And I look back now and I think that was really dumb. Like, I don't think even then I had enough experience. I just got lucky a lot of the time on set with not screwing it up. Like, I just sometimes squeaked by, making it all work. So anyways, I guess it's all perspective, but it also depends where you are too. I mean, for me in Calgary, you have to own gear because there's no rental places here for location sound equipment, like none. You have to get it out of Toronto or Vancouver. So all of us sound guys here own our own equipment.
Yeah, that makes it a challenge. Now, we always have to ask, what was your worst on-set experience?
Well, I got a good one. It was on Fargo season 3. And so we were doing process trailer work, interior car stuff, but with a process trailer. Again, a scene with Ewan McGregor. It was near the end of the day, so we were losing light. We could only go one direction because the sun was on one side. So if we had to reset, we had to drive back and go again, right? We rigged up the car, like we had no blocking. So I had the gentleman working with me, Alex, go mic them, and then I put plants in the car where I guessed where they might be. It was 2 cameras, so one through the window, one through the passenger window. And they were they're fairly wide, so you could actually see the roof. So it didn't leave me a lot of space for plant mics anywhere in the car. So anyways, I placed them as best I could. When we got here, we kind of rehearsed in the car when it was still, and then we went, and basically what happened was the plants didn't work. Ewan's wire was fine. The other gentleman, Michael's wire, was absolute garbage. Mainly because he used to wear this big puffy coat, and it was made of that awful material. And he had the seatbelt across him. So it was making a whole bunch of noise. So we went one pass and it didn't work. He wanted to use the seatbelt, so I was trying to make it work. So everybody's kind of panicking, right? Because they're looking at me because it's not working. And so it's panic. We do another pass. I jump in the front of the vehicle because I'm up in the passenger of the process trailer. We get to the end. His wire was even worse. It got worse. It was garbage, unusable. And then I looked down and I forgot to hit the record button.
Oh.
Yeah, because I was so freaked out and panicked trying to solve the situation, right? Like, and they were like, we gotta go, go, go. And I like was rushed. So I jumped in and, okay, go. Yeah. So then luckily, the wire was really bad. So then when we stopped, I was like, okay, that wire is unusable. That take is unusable. Everybody's really annoyed with me at this point. So I'm like, okay. They're like, what do you need to fix this? And I'm like, well, he can't have the seatbelt. The seatbelt is what is killing me. So he took the seatbelt off, and then I readjusted the mic and moved it again, his lav. And then we went and we did a few takes, and it was fine. It all turned out.
So happy ending, right?
Yeah, and I did hit record on those takes. But yeah, it was awful because it was just like complete. I was just panicked and stressed, and it sucks when you're in those situations, but at the end of it, I managed to fix it. Yeah. I got other stories. I did a documentary. It was a father-son documentary of a friend here, a person I worked with named Corey. And we traveled. So part of it was we needed to go to Hong Kong because his dad was from Hong Kong and he grew up there. So he wanted to show that part in his documentary. So we traveled to Hong Kong, and then the first night there, we're just, getting set up and getting our rooms and all that kind of stuff. And we eat and blah, blah, blah. Then I go to sleep, and I wake up early in the morning, and I have a stomach ache, and it's driving me crazy. So I'm like, oh, it must have been something I ate. So we had our local fixer go get me stuff, and I'm taking all this stuff, and it's getting worse and worse and worse and more painful. So we go shoot one little thing with him and his dad. And by the end of it, apparently I was just like white. I was in so much pain. So we went to the hospital, and I had to have my appendix removed. And so so in Hong Kong in a private hospital, I had my appendix removed, and then I couldn't work the rest of the time there. So we had to found a local sound guy in Hong Kong to do it, and the rest of the time I was there, I just had to chill out, and I just kind of, the local guy had any questions or whatever, I just was there to answer. And then the other dumb thing I did was on Heartland. This was like a year ago. So this time we were doing car-to-car stuff, but not process trailer. So it was a Jeep. So we had two characters in this Jeep, camera mounted on the Jeep, and then I would just throw my bag, my 633, in the back of the Jeep, hit record, and the camera would hit record, and they would go. And then we had a follow van with director and DOP and first AC and me. So we did that. We were doing some takes, and then again, we're like, okay, record, camera's going. I'm like, I'm rolling. Okay, let's go. And I run back to the van, and I'm running pretty hard, full force, and I jump, but I misjudged the door opening of the van, and I smacked my head square at the top of the thing, and it knocked me back, and then I fell on the ground and hit the back of my head on the dirt road.
Oh, man.
So then the paramedic came and checked me out, and I turned out to be fine. I thought I'd have a concussion or something like that, but no, it turned out to be fine. But that is why you don't run on set. I felt really dumb.
Gosh. Yeah.
I felt real dumb after it.
Yeah, there's nothing like falling or, doing something where things fall or you fall, and I think the older we get, when you fall, you do fall hard.
Right, exactly. But yeah, it's all, yeah. But those, the Fargo thing and that was all situations of just being too panicky and too rushed. I made mistakes, which is usually what happens when you're in those situations.
Yeah, and I think we've all forgotten to hit record as well. It's like everything sounded great, and you look down like, oh, I didn't. It's like, can we do that one again?
Yeah, I always just use I never say I didn't hit record. I always just say, technical problem with the machine. I don't know what happened. Didn't work. Didn't record. Sorry. Need to go again.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
Now, I also saw that, you've actually done recording all over the world, from Haiti, Mexico, you said Hong Kong, Indonesia. What were some of the differences you've experienced working with, say, foreign crews or other cultural things on set?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, on a lot of those, pretty much all of those, it was all crew from here, either out of Calgary or even out of Vancouver. So there wasn't too many local, like, camera teams or camera crews or anything like that. But, I'm trying to think. I didn't ever really run into anything that stands out too much. I mean, when you're traveling and working, that's pretty much all you're doing. So you don't even, a lot of the time, don't even get to really experience the country itself, right? Other than, you might have some fixers or local fixers and stuff with you that'll, show you places to eat or give you a heads up, warn you on things that you should try to avoid or areas we shouldn't be shooting in or, that sort of stuff. But yeah, nothing that really stands out that I can think of.
Yeah, I didn't know if, like, because I know some sets, in foreign countries, it's very hierarchical, and sometimes you say these people don't talk with these people and that type of thing. Is it?
Oh yeah, I've definitely heard that, but yeah, the stuff I've done, like, it's all been small, like, just doc stuff, right? Like, it's only a handful of us, and we're usually following someone we brought with us, right, from Calgary or Canada or something. Yeah, I've heard that in, like, India, that on the bigger film sets and stuff like that, you're right, there's this weird hierarchy, and also that there's a C-stand guy. Like, every piece of gear has a guy with it. Like, it's not, it's not like a big grip truck or a big lighting truck. It's like, oh, that's the C-stand guy. He'll bring you the C-stand. That's the flag guy. He'll bring you the flags, right? Like, so yeah, I've heard that kind of stuff.
Regarding technical challenges on set, is there one thing that really stood out that you had an issue, a problem that you really had to solve and figure out that you recall?
It's always usually the kind of the same stuff, just keeping track of time code, making sure it's on sync properly on cameras, because sometimes cables get unplugged or things like that, making sure the lab mics sound as clean as you can get, trying to work with DOPs, camera guys, to get your boom guy or yourself booming and, getting the mic where you want it, proper placement, all that good stuff.
It's like the usual stuff, but there's no standard set way. Every situation sometimes is different. What always works sometimes doesn't always work, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. So lav mics and wiring people, it's kind of like, it is kind of voodoo. Like, for example, on, like, Heartland, like, there's certain characters that wear the same similar types of clothes almost every day, right? Like, same material of shirt or something. And, you'll mic them the same way you always do. And they sound great for most. And then there's just that one day where it's just like, nope, Mike decides, you haven't changed how you've mounted it. You haven't changed anything about it. But Mike just decides that day, nope, it's not going to work. Like, things like that drive me crazy. And sometimes, sometimes you get a noisy outfit and you move the mic like a few millimeters. And, suddenly it's gone. Yeah, just things like that.
Now, we always like to be prepared when we're going to an audio gig, but did you ever forget any equipment?
Yeah, I was listening to your other podcasts, and it's interesting what people have said. But yeah, someone once said, I can't remember who it was, I did forget my boom once to a shoot I was doing, again, like behind the scenes doc style shoot, which I really needed the boom for. Luckily, the camera guy I was working with at that time, he actually, he had his own full audio kit. So he actually had a boom pole with a 416 in it. Like, he has a very nice audio kit, because sometimes his partner, his wife, who's also an editor, sometimes if he needs, like, if he can't find a sound person, he'll have her do it. So he had a full kit there. So thank God, because yeah, so I felt really dumb telling him. I'm like, I forgot my boom. He's like, no problem. Just use mine. Like, great, perfect. And he's literally probably the only camera guy in town that has that. Like if it was any other camera person and they'd be like, sorry.
That's great. What expendables do you like to use?
Ooh, that's the thing with my Lavin and all my stuff. I get bored quickly, so I'm always changing. Right now I use a lot of like a Super Stick It double-sided tape is my favorite. It's amazing. It's like Top Stick, but twice as sticky. And then I also I really like the Ursa tape as well. That's really nice and handy. There's lots of tricks you can do with that. And it's good for skin. I know there's Joe Sticky. I have stuff like Joe Sticky. I have the Rycoat stickies, but I've just never gotten into them. I keep them in my kit in case I've got an assistant or someone who prefers to work with that. You know, all the mounts I use, I got the new Ursa mounts. I've been playing around with those. You know, LMC mounts are great. HitoMike mounts are also great. The Ursa foamy mounts are also great. Like, I don't know. I play around with all those constantly because a lot of the time I just get bored. I can't do the same thing over and over again for some reason. That's just how my brain works.
Yeah, I actually just ordered some HitoMike because I just wanted to test them out and see what they're like. So.
Oh yeah, I really like their tie mount. Just the shape of it and just it fits really nice into ties. Works well.
Now I saw that you were a member of the IAAT 212.
Yes, correct.
Tell me a little bit. You know, a lot of our listeners ask about the union and should they join and how to join, and tell us a little bit about your experience.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty much 100% a union guy. Like I support unions everywhere. It's tricky to get into the union. That's always a challenge because it's like, oh, you need, whatever amount of days. Here, I think it's for 212. I think it's for 60 days on set of an IAAT set before you can get your membership. Sometimes it comes down to networking, a little bit of luck. One of my first jobs when I got out of film school, and I moved here, I went to the Vancouver Film School, and then shortly after that moved to Calgary. And then I just got a job at the time at a video store. And a woman I worked with, her husband happened to be the business agent for IA 212. So I met him and I told him I just finished film school. I'm just trying to get in. And, a few months later, he offered me a job to work dispatch, the IA dispatch. So basically filling in grip when I get production needs a call, like grip or electric or whoever. I go through a list of members, try to get the call filled. It didn't give me days to the union, but I did have access to every member. So when you're not a member, you can't get phone numbers or addresses or anything. So, but I had it. So I had all the sound guys' addresses and stuff. So I'd write them letters at the time, send them letters saying I'm looking, I want to be a trainee and I want more on-set experience. And so yeah, I did the dispatch job for a year, and then whenever a call came, like a grip or electric call or whatever call, if it got down to the permittees and I could do the call, I could take the call because I was a permittee. So technically I could do that. So that's how I kind of got into the union. I eventually did a grip trainee thing on a production up here for a few months. And then, it was like another year later, eventually I got a sound trainee position. So with Mike Playfair that I mentioned earlier. So I just bugged him. Eventually he got me on as sound trainee. I also had access to what productions were in town at that time. So then I would know which mixer was working on which production. So basically that's how I got my days. Worked as a trainee for Mike Playfair for like a year. And then his assistant after that. Yeah, that's the way I think everybody should at least attempt to try to learn. But now with Facebook and just social media in general, it's probably a lot easier for people who aren't members. You have JW Sound and groups like that where you could contact them, message them through their like local mixers or whoever and start bugging them. Because people bug me all the time too. Like, I want to do sound. I was like, that's great. I'm going to forget who you are. So you have to keep bugging me. Like I'm busy. Like I can't remember every person that wants to do sound. So that's my advice. bug them. Like, don't bug them like crazy stalker bug them, obviously, but you want to make sure they know you're around and that you're interested.
Yeah, as a dispatch, I mean, you really also got to see how it all works and the benefit and all that. So that's a lot of people don't realize, like how what a system is set up there.
Yeah, it was a lucky job to get. And yeah, like I got to know the members too, because I was talking to like a lot of them, right, all the time. So yeah, it was a huge advantage for sure.
All right, good. For those of our listeners getting started, do you have any freelance tips for them?
Freelance tips? Read the manual is always a good one. Whether it's union or freelance, I think it's always about networking, presenting yourself as much as you can as a professional. So for the first part of my career, I only did narrative IA gigs when I was assistant. So when I bought my own gear, then I stepped into the freelance world. And it took me a while, probably a year before I got some actual consistent work. So what I had done at that time, as much as I could, I contacted people, whoever at the time I knew within the industry, and just let them know. Again, that now I'm letting people know. Before, when I was trying to get in union, I'm letting people know I'm interested in sound. Now, when I have my own gear, now I got to let them know that I've got my own gear. I can mix. I can do your projects. So then I'm now bugging any local producers or production managers that I know. And eventually, it eventually worked out again for me, where a gentleman named John Kerr, who did that Smalls project, he was probably the first guy to give me a real chance. He had a documentary, and I was new, and it was we had to go out east to Ontario, so that added another element that I had to travel with gear. I had never done that at that point. Like I just got gear a few months ago. Now I got to travel with it. So I had to figure that out. And yeah, basically it all went well. And then after that, John basically recommended me a lot to everyone. And then he's hired me on his documentaries, his commercials. Yeah, I guess my advice, it's always, just as much as you can network, whether it be Facebook, whether it be here in Calgary, we have local meetup groups, like meet up in person for film, people interested in the film industry, things like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. So what are some common rookie mistakes or rookie problems you see on set over and over again?
Well, common things I see with new people learning to wire is that if the person has a noisy material or noisy jacket, sometimes people tend to put the mic on the noisy material, like tape it right directly to it, versus like maybe they have a soft shirt underneath the noisy jacket. So yeah, things like that. I've seen people, well, the DP and everybody, the lighting crew is lighting up a shot, like leave their boom pole in the back, like in the shot, like they just put it down in the background so it's in the shot, and then they went away to do something. Like, no, don't leave. Don't leave the microphone in the shot while the DP's trying to light it. Stuff like that.
Yeah, no, there's some interesting ones there, so that's good. So how has the business changed since you started?
Oh, God, it's changed a lot. So when I started, we were, first off, in film school, we learned on Niagara's, and then we had to, after we were done to shoot, we had to transfer it and edit with it as well, like on old Steenbeck's, picture, sound, cut it together. And then when I started working with Michael Playfair on actual IA shoots, he had a DAT recorder. So there was a lot of years of that, of working with DAT. And I remember I was on the show with him when he got the first Kantar, and we were like, oh my God, we can do 6 tracks. We were so blown away. And then after, like, it's been such a shift, because it's all camera. You're kind of chasing cameras a little bit, because they've changed a lot too over the years, from film into now they're digital cinema cameras. And even in the doc world now, you've got the shooting style or the look they can make it look more like a film, like, right? then we got into the world of sort of reality TV. And one of the first, I did a reality show where it was a weight loss show. So you had to, we had a family, and you're following them for 6 months as their journey as they lose weight. So at that time, it was like the cameras could technically do 4 tracks. I forget what they were. I think they were Panasonics HDX 800s or something like that, where they could do 4 tracks. So working with the sound supervisor, he wanted us to try to utilize those 4 tracks, right? Well, you got 2 in the back, which are, your usual XLR mic line inputs, fine. But the other 2 tracks are through the stereo mic at the front. So we had to build like a special cable with a pad, right? Because what we were doing is I had a Sound Devices 442, and I could feed, and then we were using the Lectrosonics D4s, but they were brand new at the time. So yeah, I could feed 4 tracks out of that into the D4 and into the camera. That's kind of what we did. And then we had this funky cable that it split off. We had a little Edirol 4-track recorder. I had that in the bag, so we had that as a backup, right? Like, it didn't have time code, obviously, but at least we had audio backup. And what ended up happening was the D4s were so new and they were so finicky. They just didn't work. Like, they kept powering off at weird times, and yeah, it just didn't work. So anyways, my point being, then I bought a Fusion 12. So now now I have a full-on multi-track recorder. And then from there, I'm running with a huge bag with 4 11s in it, right? Like, my bag was huge. I can't believe I did it. Chasing people as they do this weight loss journey, right? Whether they're riding bikes or running or whatever they're doing, right? And now today it's like, it's crazy. You could, like, your MixPre 10T, that would have been a dream back then. Like, that little thing and some SRCs. Oh my God. And that's how small it's gotten. It just seems to, which is good. Like, it's all getting kind of lighter and smaller, and yeah. I mean, that's the big, I think that's the biggest shift.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now, if some of our listeners wanted to get into location sound, what would you recommend they do?
I think first off, I'd recommend to see if they have a local union. Some local unions, like up here in particular in Vancouver with the sound, their union out there, they offer courses. So they'll offer like a 1 or 2 day, just come in and see what it is to be a location sound person, like an assistant. So they offer things like that, and that way you can meet people, also get your permittee status set up. Other than that, if you want to look at schooling, that's also an option. People have different opinions on that. Some say do schooling, some say just go out on the job and learn it. I think either way is fine, as long as you're being trained by some sort of professional. You're working under some sort of professional. Like I said before, meeting up with any local Facebook groups, film communities. There's even, like, we have some, like an indie community here, and they offer like courses involving camera or even sound and stuff like, yeah, and things like that.
So, well, Justin, as we kind of start to wrap things up, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? www.fiercesound.com, and I'm on all the social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all under the name Fierce Sound. All right, great. Well, Justin, I want to say thanks, and thanks to Justan Ross for being on the show today. And if you're doing some production in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, look him up. This has been great, man. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And a big thanks to all of our listeners out there. If you'd like us to discuss a particular topic, please send us an email at locationsoundpodcast@gmail.com. We would love for you to subscribe and leave us a comment. We're available on Apple Podcast, and for Android users, check out Google Podcasts. Also, we're on Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and on your favorite podcast app. Until next time, remember, sound is half the picture.